did. And you have to be on this show.
He also had that talent of improvisation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I like that.
He went with the flow.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
He definitely did. And I've already got him now on the, I found him on the Facebook and found him on the IG. And I sent my handles. Yeah. I'm going to have to tap into the music.
Okay. We're going to do this. I've got to call this next guest on the phone. Mm-hmm. So, Jay, while I get this all set up, tell us a little bit about your, since you've been back from your excursion, how's things been going?
Well, I'm like settling back into the radio every weekend in a stable place instead of like being on the road in the radio. But I'll have to admit, some of those backgrounds I had was like fun. You know, when I was in that secret location with all that there was that game unit in the back, like Pac-Man, you know, and then the fireplace. Remember that in Virginia? That was awesome. And just being in the presence of somebody who has worked on movies, that was fun.
Oh, that's nice.
And then I think me and Sam connected a little bit while I was off in Virginia a little bit better, right? I mean, we seem to connect more.
Yes, we did. I even have one of the poetry books. See, remember I was showing you that?
God, you got my book.
Yes, I did. See? Aww. So I gotta get the other one too. You know what? Because when you had sent the Amazon link, this one had come up. So I gotten this, but I need to get the science fiction one too. But hey, poetry is great too. So. Have
you cracked open the poetry at all? I mean, I hate to see it, but after I wrote my science fiction novel, I can't even make poetry anymore. It's like my fire is out of the bush, and so I can't write poetry anymore.
Well, hey, at least you got this one. So yes, I have. So,
call has been forwarded to an automated voice messaging system.
Oh Lord, we got somebody's voicemail.
Apparently, we got the dude's voicemail.
Sam, did you find that poem that I said that would make an awesome song?
No. Which you gonna give me the name?
It's like I Am My Only Farmer, or I Am the Only Farmer.
In here?
Yes, it's in there.
Okay.
And it would be a great song to push advocacy for married women, because married women can be raped and molested too.
Yes, definitely happens every day.
That song or that poem, I think, would be a great song for somebody that wanted to speak out for women.
I think so. Now, is it a song that you would like to do yourself, or do you want to have like another artist? Would you like to have like an artist sing it?
Yeah, because when I wrote that, I couldn't tell it in a first-person perspective of being molested. So I told it in like my husband was speaking.
Okay.
Like they're trying to get in.
It would be better as a man to sing that as a song about wanting to protect his wife or his girlfriend or his sister or whatever.
Can you? Okay. Let me see here. Can you hear us, my friend?
Yes, I can.
Perfect. Well, go ahead and introduce yourself here to Jay and Samantha and myself.
Hello, my name is Edward Stanton. I'm an author. I've written 12 books. I have a new one coming out on March 1st, which I think we're going to talk about today, called Vidas, Deep in Mexico and Spain. Vidas is the Spanish word for lives. And it's what you call a travel memoir about my long experience in those two countries. I'm calling you from Lexington, Kentucky, which is famous for thoroughbred horses and the world's best bourbon. In other words, it's a place known for its vices, whiskey and gambling.
That's what I said. Did you say the world's best bourbon?
That's right. The only bourbon. You cannot make a drink called bourbon outside of an area in Kentucky. That's why Jack Daniels even though it is bourbon, it can't be called bourbon. It has to be called whiskey.
Wow. I did not know that.
It's like champagne. You can't make a bubbly drink called champagne unless you make it in the Champagne region of France, right? You can call it sparkling, whatever you want. So it's a good idea. It kind of maintains quality, makes sure that that not just everyone who has a garage starts making bourbon and calling it bourbon.
So it's almost like a trademark or copyrighted phrase.
It's that, and it's really what's called in the wine business. It's called denomination of origin. Just like if you have a vineyard in Napa Valley, you can put that on your label. But if you're not in Napa Valley, you can't put that on your label.
That's almost like in the north of the United States, we call it pop, and down in the southern, you call it soda.
Yeah, and other places they
Uh-oh.
call it soda.
There we are.
Pop.
How did you get started in
Because in 2016, during the presidential campaign, there was a certain candidate, a former president. I won't mention his name, but he's the only one who's been impeached twice. Came down the golden stairs of a certain building in New York and declared that most Mexicans were rapists and criminals. I knew this wasn't true because I'd spent 35 years living, working, and traveling in Mexico. I know hundreds and have met thousands of people from Mexico, and I knew it wasn't true. Not long ago, in early 2020, the coronavirus struck Europe and hit Spain very early and fast. So I decided to include Spain in the book. That would be about these two countries, Mexico and Spain, the largest Spanish-speaking countries in the world, and to tell this travel memoir, trying just to show real people.
Awesome. So how do we get a hold of you online? Websites, all these things, Edward?
Yeah, very easy. My website is simply www.followedbymyname.com. So that's www.edwardstanton. Everyone knows how to spell Edward. And Stanton is STANTON.com. www.edwardstanton.com. And all my contact information is there. And the book will be available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and all the usual places starting on March 1st.
Now, you've written 12 books. Tell me and the ladies here a little bit about your 12 books.
Most of them have had to do with the two countries that I know better than any other. Probably know them better than I know the United States, my own country, because a lot of my career has been involved in traveling and working in those countries, doing research, working in the publishing industry, teaching at universities, writing books, editing books. And so I have a book called Road of Stars to Santiago, which is about the ancient pilgrimage route to the city of St. James of Compostela in northwestern Spain, where hundreds of thousands of people walk all across Europe every year. That's one book, which was an amazing experience to make that 500-mile walk, starting alone, but no pilgrim ends up alone. You always meet people on the way and make some lifelong friendships. Marvelous experience. That's probably the most well-known book I have. And then I published a novel in 2016 called Wide as the Wind, and it's the first novel to be based on the ecological collapse of Easter Island. I don't know if you all know much about Easter Island.
Holy smokes.
Wow.
It's one of the most remote places in the world. You can only get there if you have a boat or if you fly twice a week from Santiago, Chile. And it's a beautiful island that has virtually no trees on it because the island was deforested centuries ago, and the islanders, of course, they did not know what that meant. What it meant was they had no more wood for making boats for doing deep sea fishing, so they began to starve. That was their source of protein. Without the trees to hold the soil started to erode, so they could not plant crops as well as they could before. There were no more birds nesting in trees as a source of eggs and protein. So the island just started eating each other, and it became a kind of cannibalistic society. So I thought, well, this is an amazing story. It's a sad story, but I'd like to write a novel set with that background, but with a love story, of course. And love conquers almost everything. So that's kind of what happens in that story. Almost everything, right?
Almost everything.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. So Samantha, that is pretty amazing that he's got this book.
Yeah, it is definitely is. Like, when are usual times of day that you tend to get more inspired to write? I mean, because I know with me, my writing is more so at night.
Well, I like you. That's Samantha who's talking, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's
Okay.
me.
Yeah, you're a nocturnal person. I think that the day has different moods. The morning is the mood for business, for kind of clear thinking after you've had a few coffees. The afternoon starts to change. You get toward cocktail time. The light is softer, and you have a drink or two. And then the evening is when you really can, I think, get into yourself and reflect and remember. And there's just something about the night, especially the deep into the night, the early morning hours, that I think are just marvelous. They're the quietest hours, and I do like writing at that time. But sometimes, if you're in the business, you have to write and meet deadlines at all hours of the day, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, what's been the reaction to this book so far?
Well, the book hasn't been published, but it's gotten quite a bit of press. I think, James, that in these pandemic times when people can't travel the way they used to be able to travel just a year ago, that they kind of yearn for thinking and imagining and reading about and watching movies about faraway places. And so actually there's been a lot of interest in this book and other travel books, kind of a rebirth of travel books at a time when people aren't traveling. So there has been interest. There have been a couple of radio interviews, none as interesting as this one, of course, but there have been a couple, and I think things will pick up. We're probably going to do a virtual book launch. The old book launch was done in person at a good bookstore, and now that's not possible, so you do a virtual launch where maybe a good bookstore will sponsor it, but you'll have someone interview in his or her own home, then I'll be in my own home, and we do a triangular thing like that between the bookstore, the interviewer, and the interviewee. It can work pretty well.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Being an author myself, what was some of the trials and just some of the hardships of trying to sit down and write?
Well, we all know the terror of the blank page, right?
Mm-hmm.
But, I think the key to overcoming writer's block is just to make it something you do every day.
Yes.
Not a day without a line. Even if you only write one sentence. Hemingway used to say, if I can write one good sentence per day, I'm happy.
Yeah.
How many people in the world, how many writers are remembered for any sentence, much less one good sentence, right? It's not hard to write a lot of bad sentences and 10 bad pages, but I think
that's awesome. That's awesome. We've
key
got
at whatever time.
yes.
And put pen to paper. Or it's a discipline. That's what it is. It's a discipline. Just like people think, well, what about Picasso? He was inspired by art or whatnot. He was a workman. He worked every day, early morning to evening.
Yes.
Yeah, and threw away more paintings, more sketches, more drawings than he actually preserved.
Great advice.
That's kind of like what I say at writers' conventions. I'll tell people 2 sentences a day or 1,000 words on the weekend.
Yeah, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's good. You've got to keep the iron hot in the fire, right?
Yeah.
Even I find not writing for a week, I can get rusty.
Mm-hmm.
It's the daily discipline. It's like you, James, on your program, right? If you're off for a couple of days, it takes a while to get back in the groove, I imagine.
Yes, but suffice to say, during this worldwide pandemic, I haven't been doing a lot of days off. I've been more busier than I ever have been in my entire time.
Than
But-
a gerbil in a batting cage.
I'm busier than a gerbil in a batting cage. There we go. So, where can people find you on social media, websites, all these things?
I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitter also. But I think the best way is to go to my website, www.edwardstanton.com, because there you can find everything, all the links you need. Email, not my telephone number. Only you have that. But that can be dangerous, That can be really
Yes,
dangerous.
it can be, especially when you're Jay or Samantha, because if they had their phone numbers out there, they would be getting deluged with all sorts of nonsense.
Oh
Yeah.
my God.
Like, DMs are bad enough.
That's why they don't put the phone numbers out there.
As someone who's known as the Howard Stern of Selena Radio, and as someone who's known for Mad Chat and Rant, you also might be a target.
Well, I have had I've had all sort. We used to have when me and Ross Long were starting to do this Sunday program years ago with video. We would be right across the street from the police station. And the rappers who were arrested the night before would get out at 2 o'clock on Sundays, and I was always their first stop. So it's quite the deal, my friend. Quite the deal. Thanks for joining us today, my friend. Thanks for doing this. Thanks for chatting with Samantha and me and Jay. I appreciate it.
It was fun to talk to all three of you, and you all have a great afternoon.
Definitely. You too. Thank you, Edward. Appreciate it, my friend.
Take care.
Thank you. And there he goes, our guest, and so he was quite entertaining, I will have to say, Mr. Edward.